Peace and prosperity. Thank you for being aligned with me right now. Um, yeah, so welcome to Tailored Therapy channel, and welcome back. Thank you to the new subscribers. Thank you to the continuous subscribers that I get. It's a pleasure to have you guys here. So, hit that thumbs up, please. That would be wonderful. Subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can get all the uploads as and when they come through. You know how I do. Okay. So, yeah, today's video. Little bit excited. I'm trying to contain myself. A few things to get through. The first thing is I want to say, I want to ask actually whether you guys have noticed, particularly in the UK, it could be the same in the US, particularly in the UK where people are feeling a little bit physically under the weather, whether they're getting migraines or throat problems or just feeling quite under the weather and feeling urges like of tiredness. I've certainly felt the tiredness just all of a sudden, and that never usually happens to me. In general, or specifically, in general, shall I say, then specifically. If you guys have noticed this with family members, if you guys have noticed this with yourself, I want you to just take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. I want you guys to just be present with it. Your body's just telling you maybe to tweak some things. Your body's probably telling you as well that there's different types of energies within the environment that your body is just susceptible to. I want to encourage people to think about really doing different things that can help them balance and regulate that experience. Now, one of which is grounding. There's so many different ways you can do, but grounding, I've spoken about grounding on this channel, but I'm going to talk about it again. So grounding can look like many different things, like literally taking your shoes off and going into your garden or going into somewhere where you feel comfortable, where you can take your shoes off and go in, standing on the grass, or if you are by the beach, you could stand in some sand and just, because the earth is such a beautiful, powerful tool that we might not use as much as we probably should. It depends on what we do. I want you guys to just stand barefoot, and the electrical charges that we get from the earth, we can actually use that and recharge our physical bodies. So use it. That's one thing that you guys can do. I want you to think about, not everybody's into this, but there's another thing that people can think about, and is literally being in the dirt, like getting some soil and start planting food, planting herbs and spices, or planting some potatoes and some peppers and some vegetation. That's just really therapeutic. Like, I think some people really get into it, and I find it very therapeutic to plant things, natural foods that I've grown myself. Like, there's a beauty in seeing them budding, seeing them growing, talking to them, watering them, all these different types of things that, and then eating it, because you've spoken beauty to it, you've spoken life into it, you've been, they're like your little babies. I might sound a little strange, but there's something therapeutic in that process. Not only is it therapeutic, but I understand in the UK that the supermarkets are providing less foods, which I don't want people to get alarmed about or anxious about. I just want people, it might mean that people mightn't think of problem solving, which means that might be a good idea to start planting our own vegetables. Maybe if someone knows someone with an allotment, maybe we could start talking. Build on your resources. We'll be surprised how much people we know that has like different plots or fertile land in the back of their garden. So I want to invite people to start doing that. That would be really, really super, super cool. Another thing is, yeah, I'm a tree hugger. Like I don't even have to hug the tree. I just touch and just put my hands on the tree and kind of speak to the tree and speak. Whether I'm saying hello, whether I'm saying thank you, whether I'm saying how are you today, like, yes, that's what I'm like. And not everybody is into that, which I completely understand, and it's not for everybody. But for me, it works. I just feel good afterwards. I just feel the energy of the tree, and I'm quite super connected to that. Yeah. Oh my God, what else? Oh my God, there's so many. So one of the most important things that I want to relay to you is about breathing. And I think not all of us, but we can take it for granted that we know how to breathe, but actually a lot of us are not breathing correctly. And breathing incorrectly can encourage anxiousness and anger and irritation and low mood, you know. So when we are breathing, a lot of the time when we breathe in, our stomach goes in, which is the wrong way. So when you breathe in, your chest should actually stay still up until the last point of filling your lungs. So when you breathe in, your stomach should come out because your lungs are being filled. And then when you breathe out, your stomach should go in because your lungs are being emptied. Now, you can have a look at diaphragm breathing. And I know that singers have to practice that in order to get the best out of their voices. So diaphragm breathing might be something to look up and look at the way in which it's done, and that's really, really useful for a lot of people. And I think it's useful for even non-singers. Side note, singing is really good for people who have COPD, which is a lung disorder, and they have challenges with breathing, but singing is really good for that. Back on track. Singing is good for everybody, to be honest, even though people are not into singing. I like to sing. I don't sing lately. I haven't sung for a while, but it's fine. But yeah, let's go back to the breathing. Breathing is very, if we don't have breath after 3 minutes or less than that, we're no longer here. We can deal with water, or we can do without water for longer periods of time. We can do without food for long periods of time, but the breath, a lot of my research suggests that the breath is connected to the spirit. You know, if anybody's into that, the spirit. And the spirit doesn't have an opinion, it just is. But we can feed it with negativity and positivity. What I encourage people to do is feed it with balance. Now, when we're breathing in, I would encourage people to think of beauty, of love, of peacefulness, of abundance. And when they're breathe out love, peacefulness, and abundance, or breathe out negativity, pain, releasing blockages. It's up to you how you want to do. You could just breathe in and breathe out. And breathe in and just breathe out, you know. I encourage people when they're doing it not to do it quickly, because when they do it quickly, they could feel quite lightheaded, and I don't want to encourage that. I want you to breathe in a slow relaxed as possible and breathe out the same. There's so many other breathing techniques that we could look into. There's a practice called Qigong, which is spelled Qigong. It is a martial art practice, but it's also about manifesting and kind of, there's so many things with it. You literally are harnessing and dealing with your chi energy within. It's a beautiful practice. One of my favorites. Yeah, so breathing, I really want you guys to just be mindful. Even now when you're listening to me, you could take a slow, deep breath in and just breathe out. You probably have already done that, which is great. But even like putting a little reminder on your phone, just to beep, have you taken a slow, deep breath in, a slow, deep breath out? There are some apps out there that help you, remind you about breathing techniques. When we are in a state of managing the way we breathe in, we're breathing out, if we do that for a few minutes, it kind of allows us to just forget everything outside of ourselves and just concentrate on the breathing. With meditation, how I get to the meditative state is through breathing. So I use it to get myself to the meditative state, like I said. So that's the state between consciousness and being asleep. There's a window where you can get there by just breathing, literally. And it's that space between, I don't know if you've ever noticed, that's when you're just about to fall asleep. You're not quite asleep and you're not quite awake, but you can't feel your body. It's that space where I sit in. That space is where I try and manifest balance, manifest peace, manifest love, and visualize myself being at peace, being in love, being with love, connecting to that, my divine source. And let me know if you want me to do a video on that in more detail. Yeah. So another thing that we could really take into consideration is, what are we ingesting? So it moves nicely on. So when we are thinking about breathing techniques, that sort of thing, it would be best if the environment was fresh air, but sometimes that's not always possible. So just do it as and when you can. Take your time with it. But what are you ingesting within what are you eating? What are you eating? You know, what does your food reflect, or does your plate reflect self-love? Does your plate reflect self-love? I love colors on my plate. If I'm someone that doesn't eat dairy products or poultry, it's my choice. It's not for everybody. So I try to make my plate look as colorful as possible, and it's quite easy if I don't eat certain foods. Now, I try and stay away, not all the time, from like beige foods like rice and pastas and potatoes. Sometimes I definitely eat all of those things, but I don't eat them or consume them on a large level. With rice, you can change that to having quinoa, or bulgur wheat is another thing that people can have. But quinoa particularly has so much nutritious properties within that. Don't take my word for it, you can research it. I have more or less the same things that people have. So if I'm having pastas, instead of having minced meat, I would have some beautiful seasoned lentils and black beans, or some mung beans. I like food. And I'm thinking about food so much now, which is so cool. Oh my gosh, so yeah, if I was eating pasta, yeah, so there's the lentils for the spaghetti bolognese. You can have that for Yorkshire, like, the pies that people, not Yorkshire pies, isn't it like cottage pies or whatever? Like people have mince pies, like the cottage pies. So instead of using the mince and putting the potato on top, I'd use the lentils. Lentils have got so much nutritious properties in there. And people ask me, how do you get your protein if you don't eat meat? And I'm asking them, lambs don't eat meat. Cows don't eat meat. How do you think they get so much protein within their bodies that, they get it from nature? And that's exactly where I get mine from. Yes. This is just some ideas. Like literally, you do not have to change your diet, seriously. And I would advise anybody who's thinking of changing their diet to a plant-based one to really take their time and do the research about what it is that they need. It would be worth if everybody goes and gets a checkup. I've said this before, but I'll say it again. From a trusted GP, general practitioner, doctor, get a checkup to know what your iron levels are, what your protein levels are, what your folic acid levels or your magnesium levels are. Find out what levels you have at the moment, what needs to be tweaked before you then continue with, your nutrition and what you're doing, because it's about leveling up. That's what I really want us to do. Level up this in the next couple of weeks, even if you can start from next week, that would be really good. Just start leveling up, being mindful, even if it's just you grounding yourself in the beautiful grass and then breathing every evening, doing a breathing technique every morning. The more we invest in ourselves, the more returns we will see and get. So yes, hope that makes sense. Yeah. So yeah, does my plate reflect self-love? I want you to have a think about that and not being critical of self, just being mindful. Okay, maybe some people don't like vegetables and fruits. Maybe they can blend them and drink it that way. It's an opportunity for you to think about different ways of, investing in ourselves, If we were cooking for somebody who we love, we might put a lot more effort in compared to if we're cooking for ourselves. And I kind of want us to really put more effort in ourselves. That's part of self-love and self-care. And I'm an advocate of that. Sometimes we haven't got the energy to do that, and that's okay. It's okay. It's absolutely fine if we don't. What it is that, okay, so if I haven't got the energy to make sure the food that I'm eating is on par with how I would if my friend was coming over, what else can I do? Breathing techniques, grounding, water intake. Coconut water and I'm on about fresh coconuts. These coconuts in cartons, some of them are quite great, but some of them are not to be trusted, So if possible, think about going to certain stores that will sell fresh coconut and then can cut them up for you if you're not sure how to cut them. Just cut the lid, the top part of it, so you can drink the juices and drink the jelly. That's much more nutritious than distilled water for us. Don't take my word for it. Do some research. And I want you to just, especially this time of year as well, if possible, just do that a little bit more. You can increase your water intake in general. It might be worth having a look online, look at what's alkaline foods, what's acidic foods. Acidic foods are good for us. Don't let anybody tell you any different. It's just what's balanced. You could find out what pH level your body's at, little strips that you can get offline. These are just little tips that you can do. I don't want you guys to bombard yourself with, I need to do this, I need to do that. Take your time, slowly, slowly. Yes, start with 1 or 2 things a week. Do that for a few weeks and then incorporate something else. Oh my gosh, what else? It's easy for me to say, but sunlight, especially for the melanated people that watch my